Yo guys, what is good? It's Cameron from Deck Builders here, and today we'll bring you the Danger Gren Maju Deck. Now this deck is a really good deck. To be honest, I think it's one of my favorite Gren Maju decks. It did pretty decent in like one of the more recent YCSs, you know, before everything got shut down. But the reason I like the Danger combination so much is because it gives it like another option. It gives it a little bit more consistency, especially if you like, you know, you can draw the Danger monsters. They're an instant summon, instant +1s. They give you an instant card advantage. But for anyone that doesn't know, Gren Maju is a deck that focuses on obviously the Gren Maju card, and it gains 400 attack for every card you have banished. It obviously does not need a tribute summon, so it's super easy to summon. All you need to do is get it in your hand. So the deck is focused on banishing cards so that you can get Gren Maju on the field with a ton of attack, as well as commenting Gren Maju below. We would really appreciate it. It does really help out the channel. So if you could do that, we would really appreciate it. And without further ado, let's get into the deck list.
Okay, so we're starting off with our hand traps. We're running 3 copies of Ash Blossom and the Joyous Spring. When a card or effect is activated that includes any of these following effects: quick effect, you can discard this card and negate that effect. Add a card from the deck to the hand, special summon from the deck, send a card from the deck to the graveyard. You can only use this effect of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring once per turn. This is obviously a really good one negate that can just negate a variety of cards. Then I'm running 2 copies of DD Crow, which is really useful in the current meta. It definitely negates a lot of meta decks. Quick effect, you can discard this card from the graveyard and target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard, banish that target. Again, this is 2 copies of DD Crow. Then I'm running 2 copies of Droll and Lockbird. If a card or cards is added from the main deck to your opponent's hand, except during the draw phase, quick effects, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. For the rest of this turn, cards cannot be added from either player's main deck to the hand. Now that's it for our hand traps. We're running a lot of hand traps considering we have so many cards in this deck and we're banishing a lot of cards that really, we're not really running that many hand traps because most of these cards will get banished. Now for our Danger cards, we're running 3 copies of Danger Bigfoot. Now all the Danger monsters have this part of their effect. You can reveal this card in your hand. Your opponent randomly chooses 1 card in your entire hand. Then you discard that chosen card. Then if the discarded card was not that Danger monster, special summon that Danger monster from your hand. And if you do, draw 1 card. And then Danger Bigfoot's effect that is specific to him is if this card is sent to the graveyard from your hand, then you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent, or 1 face-up card your opponent controls, destroy it. Then I'm running 3 copies of Danger Thunderbird. Now this obviously has the danger effect where the opponent chooses 1 card, you discard it. If it's not this card, special summon it. But then this card's specific effect to Danger Thunderbird, if this card is sent to the graveyard or it's discarded from the hand, then you can target 1 face down card your opponent controls or 1 set card that your opponent controls, destroy it. Then I'm running 2 copies of Danger Pogo. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say that. Again, it has the regular danger effect and then the effect specific to this card. If this card is discarded, you can send 1 danger card from your deck to the graveyard, except Danger Ogopogo. You can only use the effect of Danger Ogopogo once per turn. Then I'm running 1 copy of Danger Chewbacca. Obviously this card has all the danger monsters effects. Then if this card is discarded, you can target 1 danger monster in your graveyard except Danger Chewbacca and special summon it. You can only use the effect of Danger Chewbacca once per turn. Then I'm running 1 copy of Danger Jackalope. Obviously it has the standard danger effect. But if this card is discarded from your hands, then you can special summon 1 danger monster from your deck in defense position except Danger Jackalope. Then I'm running 1 copy of Danger Nessie. Obviously it has the standard danger effect. If this card is discarded, you can add 1 danger card from your deck to your hand except Danger Nessie. That's just really insanely overpowered. Then for our last danger monster, we're running 1 copy of Danger Tsunoka. Again, it has the regular danger effect, and if this card is discarded, you can special summon this card. You can only use the effect of Danger Tsunoka once per turn. Now moving on to our Gren Maju engine, we're obviously running 3 copies of Gren Maju Danger. Sorry, I don't really know how to say that last part, but this card attack and defense are equal to the number of banished cards you have times 400. That is why this card is so insanely overpowered, because if you have a lot of banished cards, this card has a lot of attack. Then I'm running 3 copies of Gizmek or Orchi the Separating Sky Slasher. I don't know how to say that at all, but it's a very long name. And this card is also really good. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, quick effects, you can banish 8 cards from the top of your deck face down. Special summon this card, you can banish 3 cards from your extra deck face down, then target 1 face up monster on the field, destroy it. You can only use 1 Gizme Orchi the Sky Slasher effect per turn, and only once that turn. So this card is insanely overpowered. You special summon it, you can destroy one of your other person's cards, and you're banishing a bunch of cards, which is really good in this Gren Maju deck. Then I'm running 3 copies of Eater of Millions. Cannot be special summoned / set, must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 5 or more cards from your hand, field, and or either extra deck. Face down, this card attack gains 100 attack and 100 defense for each face down banished card. This card cannot be tributed nor used as a material for a fusion, synchro, or XC summon. Once per turn at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish that opponent's monster face down. So this card is really good. It can't lose battles, and you get to banish a few more cards so that Gren Maju gains some attack, and it also gains attack based off the amount of face down banished cards, so it just works insanely well. Then I'm running 2 copies of Raiden the multi-dimensional kaiju. You can special summon this card from your hand to your opponent's side of the field in attack position by tributing 1 monster they control. If your opponent controls a kaiju monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in attack position. You can only use 1 kaiju monster once per turn. You can remove 2 kaiju counters from anywhere on the field. Special summon 1 Raiden token Fiend type dark level 7 attack 2800 0 defense, but it cannot be used as a synchro material. This is really just a pretty decent kaiju, and if your opponent is running a kaiju deck, then you can take advantage of being able to use their tokens. Now moving on to our spells, we're running 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Draw 2 cards and banish 1 dark monster from your hand, or if you do not have any dark monsters in your hand, send your entire hand to the graveyard. Since this is such a large deck, we're trying to get as many draw cards as possible, and Allure of Darkness is a really good card for this deck considering most of our monsters are dark. Now we're running pretty much the trump card of this deck, Pot of Desires. This is by far the most useful card paired with Gren Maju. You can banish 10 cards from the top of your deck face down, and then you get to draw 2 cards. You can only activate 1 Pot of Desires per turn. Running 3, if you get all of them, you get to banish 30 cards in your deck, so Gren Maju gets a ton of attack, and you get to draw 2 cards. Now a lot of decks obviously use this card when they don't even like banishing cards, just because the draw 2 is so overpowered. So think about it, we're getting banishing 10 cards, which in this deck is good, and we still get to draw 2 cards, which makes this card completely overpowered in this deck. Then I'm running 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Now we are running a few fusion monsters in this deck, so this is a really good card. It's probably one of the best fusion cards ever for any deck. You can discard 1 card, fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from either field as fusion materials, and neither player can activate card effects or effects in response to this activation, and that last part is what makes it so good. This card cannot be negated, and also you can use your opponent's monsters, which are pretty nice, especially if they're running dark monsters. You're able to summon that Starving Venom Fusion Dragon and get rid of your entire opponent's board, and you get a cool monster with it. Then I'm running 2 copies in trade-in. Discard 1 level 8 monster and draw 2 cards. Again, another card that gives you a lot of good draw power. Then I'm running 2 copies of Twin Twister. Again, another really good card. And this is pretty much our main spell and trap, destruction or whatever, as well as Danger Thunderbird. But this card, you can discard 1 card, then target up to 2 spell and trap cards on the field and destroy them. So that's a really good card because we get to destroy 2 spell and traps. It's also a quick effect spell, which means you can activate activate it on your opponent's turn, which is really useful. Then I'm running 1 copy of Card Destruction. Each player discards their entire hand, then draws the same number of cards they discarded. Then running 1 copy of Monster Reborn. Target 1 monster in either player's graveyard and special summon it. That's just really good. Obviously, Monster Reborn's a classic card and it doesn't really have too much of downside. Now running 1 copy of Danger Response Team. This is not a card that you see too often, even in Danger decks, but it did work pretty decent in this deck. So you target 1 Danger monster you control, add 1 monster on the field, return them to your hand. If this card is in the graveyard, you can discard 1 Danger monster, place this card on the bottom of the deck, then draw 1 card. You can only use each effect of Danger Response Team once per turn. Then I'm running 1 copy of Forbidden Chalice. Target 1 face-up monster on the field until the end of this turn. That target gains 400 attacks, but its effects are negated. That's a pretty good card to activate on the Danger monsters, but please do not activate it on Gren Maju or Eater of the Millions, because that would just be stupid. Then running 1 copy of Mind Control. Target 1 monster your opponent controls until the end phase. Take control of that target, but it cannot declare an attack or be tributed. Then I'm running 1 copy of Mystic Mind, It's a really good stalling card. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, your opponent cannot activate monster effects or declare an attack. If you control more monsters than your opponent does, you cannot activate monster effects or declare an attack. Once per turn during the end phase, if both players control the same number of monsters, destroy this card. So if you can get this card on the field, summon 1 Gren Maju, and your opponent has a bunch of cards, you can just slowly destroy them, even if Gren Maju only has like a couple thousand attack. Obviously, if he gets 10,000 attack, it's a GG because they can't activate their monster effects. Now for the 2 trap cards running 1 copy of Evenly Matched. Obviously a really good card. Most people throw it in their side, but because we want more cards in our deck so that we can banish more cards, I thought I may as well chuck it in the main deck. It's a pretty good card. Doesn't matter if it gets banished, and it's still cool if you get it. At the end of the battle phase, if your opponent controls more cards than you, you can make your opponent banish cards from their field face down so that they control the same number of cards you do. If you control no cards, you can activate this card from your hand. Same story with this card. Most people just throw it in their side deck, but I thought, I may as well add it into the main deck. We're running 1 copy of Red Reboot. When your opponent activates a trap card, negate the activation, and if you do, set that card face down. Then they can set 1 other trap directly from their deck. For the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, your opponent cannot activate trap cards. You could activate this card from your hand by paying half your life points. So that's it for the main deck. We're running 30 monsters, 19 spells, and 2 traps. Now, a lot of people run 60 card Gren Maju decks, but I don't know, I just didn't feel like running that many cards. Also, I noticed that a lot of the competitive Danger Gren Maju decks don't actually run 60 cards because Danger is a lot more versatile. You don't really need to run that 60 cards, and yeah, some people won YCS with this almost this similar deck, a very similar deck. I kind of copied their deck and then just changed it the way I like it, and we obviously had to remove some cards and add some cards because some cards were banned and some cards are new. Now we're running a pretty generic dark kind of extra deck. So we're running 1 copy of Borosword Dragon. Cannot be destroyed by battle. Once per turn, quick effect, you can target 1 attack position monster, change it to defense position. Also, if this card can make a second attack during each battle phase this turn, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect activation. Once per turn, this card declares an attack on a face-up monster. You can activate this effect until the end of this turn. This card gains attack equal to half that monster's current attack, and if it does, that monster's current attack is halved. I'm sure I didn't need to let you know, but Borosword's always a beast, a level 4 or rank 4, I don't even know, link 4 monster, boss monster that can pretty much work in any deck. Then I'm running 1 copy of Curious the Lightsworn Dominion. Then I'm running 1 copy of Dingarisu the Orchest of the Evening Star. This card is a rank 8 and requires 2 level 8 monsters to be summoned. You can special summon Dingarist Orchest of the Evening Star once per turn. You can also XC summon this card by using an Orcus Link monster you control as a material. If a card or cards you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach one material from this card instead. If this card is special summoned, you can activate one of these effects. Send one card your opponent controls to the graveyard. Attach one of your banished machine monsters onto this card as a material. Then we're running one copy of Earth Golem at Ignista. Now this card requires one Cyburst monster and one Link monster. After this card is fusion summoned, you can take no damage for the rest of this turn. If this card attacks the monster that was special summoned from this extra deck, this card gains attack equal to its original attack during the damage step only. If when this card is destroyed by battle, you can target one Cyburst monster in your graveyard except Earth Golem at Ignista. Special summon it. You can only use the effect of Earth Golem at Ignista once per turn. Now obviously this is a super polymerization target that you want to use against another Cyburst deck. Then I'm running one copy of IP Masquerena, obviously very expensive and very good card. This card requires two non-link monsters. During your opponent's main phase, you can quick effect. Immediately after this effect resolves, link summon one link monster using materials you control, including this card. You can only activate the effect of IP Masquerena once per turn. A link monster that is used this card as a material cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Then I'm running one copy of Nightmare Phoenix. Now these two Nightmare monsters are pretty situational, but this card requires two monsters with different names. If this card is link summoned, you can discard one card, then target one spell/trap card your opponent controls, destroy it. Then if this card was co-linked when this effect was activated, you can draw one card. You can only use the effect of Nightmare Phoenix once per turn. Co-linked monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. Then running one copy of Nightmare Unicorn. This card requires 2+ monsters with different names. If this card is link summoned, you can discard one card, then target one card on the field, return it to the deck. Then if this card was co-linked when this effect was activated, you can draw one card. You can only use the effect of Nightmare Unicorn once per turn. While any co-linked Nightmare monsters are on the field for your normal draw phase, draw one card for each different card name among those co-linked with Nightmare monsters instead of drawing just one card. Then we're running one copy of Mud Dragon of the Swamp. Then we're running one copy of number 23 Lancelot Dark Knight of the Underworld. This card requires two level 8 monsters. This card can attack your opponent directly while it has XYZ material. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy it. Once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell/trap card or another monster effect is activated, detach one XYZ material from this card, negate the activation. Then we're running one copy of number 68 Sandpones the Sky Prism. Again, this is another rank 8 that requires two level 8 monsters. Gain 100 attack and defense for each monster in the graveyard. Once per turn, you can detach one material from this card. Until the end of your opponent's turn, this card cannot be destroyed by card effect. Also, neither player can special summon monsters from their graveyard. We're running one copy of number 38 Hope Hangbring Dragon Titanic Galaxy. Another rank 8 that requires two level 8 monsters. Once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell card or effect is activated on the field, you can negate that effect, and if you do, attach that card to this card as an XYZ material. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can detach one XYZ material from this card, change the attack target to this card, and perform damage calculation if a face-up XYZ monster or monsters you control is destroyed by battle or card effect. You can target one face-up XYZ monster you control. It gains attack equal to one of those destroyed monsters' original attacks. Then I'm running one copy of Predplant Dragonopelia. This is a really good target for super polymerization. Once per turn, quick effect, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, place one predator counter on it, and if it is level 2 or higher, it becomes level 1. as long as it has a predator to counter negate the activated effect of your opponent's monster that have predator counters. Again, this just requires one fusion monster and one dark monster, so if your opponent summons a fusion monster, you can easily just activate super polymerization, get rid of the fusion monster, and you can have this card on your side of your field, which has 2700 attack, so it's not bad at all. Then running one copy of arguably the best target for super polymerization, especially if your opponent is playing a dark deck, that is one copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. This card requires 2 dark monsters on the field except tokens. If this card is fusion summons, you can make this card gain attack equal to one opponent's special summoned monster until the end of this turn. Once per turn, you can target one level 5 or face up higher monster your opponent controls. Until the end of this turn, this card's name becomes that monster's original name, and replace this effect with that monster's original effects. If this fusion summon card is destroyed, you can destroy all of your opponent's special summon monsters. Considering most people just have special summon monsters, that can be incredibly overpowered. Then running one copy of Tropologic something or other, I can't say it. I've been talking for so long, I'm getting tired. But either way, this card is a Link 3 and requires 2+ effect monsters. If a monster or monsters is special summoned to a zone or zones this card points to, banish as many of those monsters as possible, also as many spell or trap cards on the field as possible. And if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each of their cards banished by this effect. Then running one copy of Tropologic Zeroboros. Again, I don't know how to say that, but if you've ever played against this card, the first time you play against this card and you don't read its effect, this card will destroy your entire board. It is one of the more frustrating cards, especially the first time you play against it. But after that, you just got to know its effect and just not make sure it activates. It doesn't activate its effect. But this is a Link 4 that requires 2+ effect monsters. You can summon / set monsters to any extra monster zone this card points to. Gains 200 attack for each banished card. If another monster is special summoned to a zone a Link monster points to while this monster is on the field, banish all cards on the field. Once per turn during the standby phase of your next turn after this card was banished by its own effect, special summon this banished card. So this is just so good on this deck because you get to banish the entire field and then you just get to bring it back, and it has 3000 attack, so yeah, it's a pretty overpowered card. Yo guys, I know this is a bit of a long video, so if you guys enjoyed it and watched all the way to the end, comment down long so that we actually know. That kind of sounds weird. Pause. Let's comment down below. Let's just comment down Gran if you made it all to the way, like Gren Maju. Comment just Gran if you made it to this point. If you made it to this point, you know, you may as well hit that like and subscribe button, and we're gonna bring you a new deck list every Friday. And I'm out. See ya.